Hi, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. We know that there are a lot of people already waiting for it to start. It's built up a lot of excitement and a lot of interest. I'm definitely looking forward to it because I don't know much about tracking, which is why I'm hosting and not speaking. We have Laurent, who knows a lot about it, Sam, who knows about it, Pina, and Joel, who's going to give the talk. Now, Joel, I've met you before. We met in Tel Aviv. You're a super expert in PPC, yeah?
I am an expert.
Super expert.
I don't know about super. I don't know about expert. No, I am sort of qualified. Yes, I've been doing it for a while, and I think the most important thing to become an expert is the experience. And I've been very fortunate to have had a lot of good experiences with a lot of very amazing accounts, which kind of brought me up to what I am.
Yeah, I know you told me loads about PPC when we were talking on the beach in Tel Aviv, and it was a great conversation. That's a really great place to be having a conversation. And one thing that kept coming up was tracking and going and looking at the figures, looking at how well you were performing and making sure you were tracking it. And you were saying it's like a game to make sure that you're winning the game.
That's right.
And tracking is fundamental to that. If you can't track, you can't win the game.
Well, for me, like one thing that keeps me very engaged in the job is the fact that it's really performance oriented. It's not like most anything else that people do where they kind of just work every day and it kind of just accumulates and there's a project and one day it's done. When you're doing performance-based marketing, any decisions you make on one day you can see the results the day after. And in order for that to happen, you need tracking, and you need to be able to track everything on your site, and you need to be able to get the data, and you need to be able to rely on it. And I think that's really what this webinar is about.
Oh, the webinar is really that. You're tracking, you're making every single click count, and making sure that when you're playing the game with all the cards in your hand. And Laurent, did I detect a French accent with you?
Well, not really French. Yes, French, but I'm originally from Switzerland. And yes, not very, very different. Joel and I, work together. I was one of his clients many years ago. That's how we started working together, like 5 or 6 years ago. And now in Tel Aviv, and it's all about tracking.
And you've been working in digital for forever. You said forever, and you've been working in gambling, in dating, in financials, all the really competitive markets. And one of the keys I would imagine you're going to tell me is tracking.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you get to, when you pay, or when you have the chance to, to pay $500, $600, $700 CPA for a gambling player. You have to be able to to measure every single interaction that the user or the player, potential player, will have with your site and system. So tracking has been always at the very center of all our decisions across all the industries that I've been working with.
Yeah,
and it's always been like a huge challenge because of so many diverse systems.
A lot of people forget to do it, or they do it badly. And when you're dealing with something incredibly competitive like gambling or dating, as you said, you're playing with big numbers. You're playing a lot for the click. So you really need to make sure that every single click counts. And that's what both this webinar and your software, which I can't remember the name of. Can you remind me, please?
AnyTrack.
Brilliant.
What's your name again?
That was me playing.
Where's the mute button? Where's the mute button?
AnyTrack. I've actually been looking at the presentation. I mean, it's really simple. You just install a line of JavaScript and it all works, which is amazing. It's great for people like me who don't like to code.
Yeah. It's let's say it's a very long story, but eventually, when you realize that the tracking itself is a complex topic, and on top of that, the system that you need to implement tracking, make things very complicated. So how do we, digest all this information? Then we use someone like you partner with someone like Moshe, my co-founder, who can, translate, years of experience and years of struggles and challenges into almost like a line of code.
Which is brilliant. It's taking something very complex and making it very simple for people like us, which is absolutely perfect. And Sam, I've never met you before. I won't even try to say your surname. I'll call you Samar.
Love that. Makes my life even easier.
And I understand, that you're a super expert in marketing and you make revenue growth happen in companies. You're based where?
I'm based in Baltimore, but my agent, I work for Warshawski. We're an agency, but we have offices in New York and DC. So I feel like a nomad. I just like go up and down the East Coast.
And you're a teacher as well. You teach at New York University?
I guest lecture at NYU. I'm on the faculty at Johns Hopkins Carey School of Business and Cabrini University.
Oh, and you play golf, I understand.
Yes.
With a handicap of?
Right now, 7-ish.
Is that good?
If I was professional, no, I'd lose a lot.
Right. That's a brilliant answer. Love it. Thank you. Pina, we've met before.
Yes, hi.
Lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you too, Jason.
What attracted me about your profile that I was looking at is you're a Women Digital founder. Can you tell me about Women Digital?
Yeah, it's an initiative we founded 1.5 years ago, and we started off with meetups in Istanbul, but now we're expanding to Berlin as well. It's a community for women working in digital marketing. We didn't want it to have it too tight, just saying women in SEO or women in search. So it's more also for women who work in e-commerce, and just to empower women to share their knowledge, maybe do their first speaker gigs and things like this. So it's a nice community, and we're trying to grow it because it's a side project. So from our daily job, of course, we don't have that much time over to organize it and all the webinars. Joking. But
webinars where you're going to show your knowledge. You're an ex-Googler and you know all about this stuff. So, I mean, I've had chats with you. You're incredibly knowledgeable, and I'm terribly keen to hear what you've got to say too. So I'm about to learn loads. Everybody who's watching is about to learn loads, and it's Joel who's going to explain to us everything we need to about tracking to make every click pay or every click count, so that the campaign pays.
Of course, because if you're not measuring. If you are measuring, that's really the bottom line. 1 second, I'm having a PowerPoint.
Welcome to everybody.
Primary screen.
I, from experience, have listened to Joel explain PPC, not so much tracking, so I don't know what he's going to say so much today, but PPC definitely on the beach in Tel Aviv, and I know that we're going to all learn an awful lot. And we've got loads of questions already lined up for Pina, Sam, and Laurent, or Laurent, depending on how we want to say it. And please, people who are watching, any of the audience, if you're watching, please do post your questions to the YouTube chat, excuse me, and we'll try and answer the questions as we go along. We've got quite a lot already, but if we're pretty quick at talking, we'll be able to answer quite a lot of questions, I think, during the hour we've got ahead of us. So, Joel, are you ready to go?
Well, yes, I am ready. It's been a while actually since I presented, so I just have to get reacquainted, make sure I'm not sharing the wrong thing. Share screen. 1 second. There you go. Okay. How is that looking for everybody?
It looks amazing. Perfect. Off you go, Joel. This is going to be great.
This will be great. Let's see how this happens. So, as Jason said, I spoke a lot about PPC. I think a lot of people speak about about what everyone thinks about when you think of online marketing. SEO, social media, paid advertising, it's all been covered. It's all been done before. But none of it can possibly work if you're not measuring effectively. And I think that's why we've had such tremendous engagement in this topic, and why it's becoming what it is. It's really, truly exciting. So I'll start briefly with an introduction of what we're here to talk about. First off, I'm going to begin speaking about why conversion tracking matters. After that, I'm going to touch on why it's so difficult, because the truth is I run a digital advertising agency, and more often than not, I struggle with conversion tracking issues, which is often detrimental to our performance. And finally, what are the solutions, what we can do in order to get over these issues? But before I begin, I'm going to say a little bit about myself. I think a lot of the people here know about me. My name is Joel Bondorowsky. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. I first dabbled in Google AdWords back in 2001. I looked it up. I think it was maybe one of their first 300 users. It was really early. It was an experience I had back when I had an online company a while back. I then somehow disappeared in Brazil for a little bit. In 2009, I moved to Israel. I fell in love with online marketing, with PPC advertising, when I was lucky enough to manage getting a job for Wix.com. A lot of people know it. They were tremendous in the aspect that with them, I got a lot of responsibility. I learned really what performance-based marketing was. At Wix, we learned how to track every step of the sales funnel, from a user coming in and registering for free to finally becoming premium, and really like figure out how to like use the tiny bits of data in between to optimize for the best performance. And I think that was like that for me. That was the best university I could have ever gone to. I also worked briefly at SimilarWeb, which some of you might know. Later on, I founded a boutique advertising agency called Quality Score, and now I am running PPC Designs. We're also a boutique ad agency based in Tel Aviv, and sometimes I speak with SEMRush, and I am their unofficial PPC Academy professor. So first off, effective tracking. But before we move on, I want to say what this isn't, okay? This is about being able to gather all the data that you need to understand how users are behaving through your website. I am not explaining analytics. I'm not explaining how to solve problems with attribution. I'm not explaining how to, in this webinar, I'm not going to, I've done in the past, I will again. I'm not going to talk about how to understand what micro conversions you want to optimize for, what KPIs you want to go for, not at all. I'm just telling you what you need to do in order to measure everything from the time somebody sees an ad all the way to the point where they make a purchase, and even beyond if you need to, and have all that data unified in one place so that way you could make the most of your marketing budget. Now, over 100 years ago, there was, there was John Wanamaker, founder of Macy's department stores. We all know him, and he had a quote: "Half of the money I spend in advertising is wasted. The problem is I don't know which half that is." He had a terrific excuse. He had no way to measure. He didn't have data like we do in order to really optimize his ad spend. 100 years later, we have the internet marketing revolution. Getting ads to over 1 billion people out there. These people can be doing anything from searching, browsing on the web, reading articles, scrolling on their newsfeed. There's so much data, there's so many people, there's so many ways they could reach you. If you're not able to effectively measure them from the time they see that ad message to make a purchase, I think what was his name again? John, I think it would blow his mind if he realized that we had the power we do today and people aren't taking full advantage of it. Your campaigns are destined to fail because other people who do understand it, your advertising competitors, they might know what they're doing, and they might be tracking better. They might be attributing sales to the right traffic sources better, and then they can outbid you. You need the data. The data will give you control. The data will give you control. It'll allow you to measure your performance, and the data also, by the way, can be measured and tracked across multiple advertising platforms, across multiple networks. If you don't, you could suffer the fate of more than 50% of ad campaigns out there. There's been a study done, and actually we found that more than 50% of advertising efforts fail due to improper or inadequate tracking. With pay-per-click advertising, you are choosing to pay. And I'm saying pay-per, by the way, there's many forms of online marketing out there, but whether you're doing SEO or affiliate marketing or anything else, one way or another, you are paying for the traffic. That traffic has a value. The only way you can understand the value of the traffic that's coming in is with effective tracking. So for you to optimize the efforts that you're making, you need to be measuring everything so that we can have full, visibility. You can understand where to put more money, where to put less, what keywords to bid more on, which keywords deserve less bids or you need to exclude, and so on. But there's actually something new that's happening right now, and that is now in the year 2020. Well, we're finding that all the major ad networks out there are using machine learning in order to optimize your targeting. It is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. It is more essential than ever. If you're running Facebook campaigns, and I think a lot of people out there that run Facebook, when you're building your audiences, when you're setting up your, they basically beg you to give sales value, to give sales value, to give values for the users. It's not simply enough to count that the sales are happening. You want to feed them as much data, as many signals as possible with actual values for what they're worth. Google Ads these days, they have the new smart campaigns. How do they work? How do they optimize? How do they know where to target? The idea is that it looks at the signals on your website, at the conversions, to reach the right people at the right time to get more of those sales. So if you're going to be effective today and in the future, you need to make sure that you're tracking everything and you are counting those sales, you're giving them values, and you're putting them back to the PPC platforms. So now, I said earlier that more than 50% of online marketing campaigns fail, and I think the next thing I want to do is actually talk about why that is, because it's something that I have to deal with a lot of times when I'm dealing with clients. A lot of times they simply don't understand what they're missing. They don't understand how important it is. They think that they're just kind of like in a traditional world. A lot of people see the ads and so on. There's another reason as well, and the other reason could be technical. There could be a technical limitation because of the site. It could be that they just don't understand what needs to happen in order to implement it. But what I will tell you, if you're doing online marketing and you're not measuring everything, is just stop, or at least slow down. Don't spend any more than you have to until you have this problem figured out. Once you do, and you spend your next, quarterly budget or next monthly budget, the stats you get are going to mean so much more. The top reasons that I think people don't track effectively, by the way, is for one, they lack an understanding of what performance marketing is. They think, okay, we need more customers. What do we need to do? We need to show ads. What are ads? Messages in front of people. I mean, they're maybe stuck in the world of print advertising, where what's the goal? You're setting up postcards and you want to get as many as possible in your area. I mean, that's what the internet gives us, is the ability to measure performance. So when I say measure performance, well, when you're doing online marketing, you will never succeed unless you understand what the value per click is. With pay-per-click advertising, you choose how much you pay for the click you drive. Every click has a value. The formula for that value is simple. I've spoken about it before. I'll give a very simple example. Let's say your sales worth $100, and 1% of the people that come and buy, the value of that click will be worth $1. With performance advertising, you need to be able to measure all of this in order to know that you need to pay less than $1 per click in order to be profitable. Another reason why campaigns fail as well is sometimes people are maybe working in large companies. They have a CFO, he allocates them budget, and they think, okay, we're going to put this much into this channel. We're going to put some money into radio. Let's throw some money into online marketing. And they're just thinking about branding. They're thinking about getting the message out there. Another reason as well is that maybe there is something going on. They are measuring, but they simply think that what they have is adequate. If you're not measuring everything from A to Z, it is inadequate. You could be doing much better. Now, another reason why people fail with this is due to technical limitations. A lot of times I'll be dealing with a client and their website could be built on a CMS. The CMS might be outdated. It might not support the tracking that's needed in order to measure effectively. I've also run into situations, and this is the worst, when a client has a website that's built on a custom CMS. They decided to reinvent the wheel, build something from the ground up, dump tons of money into it. And in the end, maybe it's like a one-page app, or for whatever reason, just you can't track the regular ways. It doesn't simply work properly. And then there are other technical limitations. And then the next two limitations I think are more common for people who actually really understand what they're doing. And they have is that their sales funnel might actually transcend across many domains and websites. That's often a big issue, you know? Or maybe the sales funnel leads to a third-party ordering system, like an affiliate tracking system. That's a huge challenge. Like, take for an example an affiliate marketer, and the affiliate marketer is buying traffic from one source, sending it to a website, which then maybe goes to an affiliate site, and then gets reported from ClickBank or another affiliate tracking program. How do you unify all of that? I mean, this is a real challenge. And I think a lot of times these affiliate marketers can be the best marketers in the world, but if they can't figure this out, they're going to fail. Another reason could be as well, and this is actually, I think, very common for small businesses out there, small businesses, local businesses that take leads. Like, let's say, you know, I mean, and like a local service, they're running online campaigns. They might just simply be counting the leads. They might be thinking, okay, we're paying $10 per lead. That's good. That's great. Sometimes leads convert, sometimes they don't, but they're not actually tracking it all the way through. If you're running campaigns like that, I'm telling you, if you're running campaigns like that and you think a $10 lead is good, I promise you that you'll find that from some keywords, you might be profitable from a $100 lead, while others that are maybe giving you a $1 lead are junk. If you're not able to attribute the sale from that phone call that happens to the actual click itself, when and where it happens, you can't optimize effectively. You don't know to bid higher in the better ones, and you don't know to cut out the crappier leads. These are all reasons why people don't get the most of their advertising budget. So I think now I will speak a little bit about the solutions. So what are they? Traditionally, I mean, you could do it yourself, right? I mean, Google AdWords conversion pixels or Google Ads conversion pixels, you could do it through Google Analytics. If you're running Facebook ads, they have you can put the pixel on your site. How do you usually define it? Simple. A lot of times after someone converts, they're taken to a thank you page. A very traditional way to do it is make it so that if a click comes and ends up on that thank you page after they become a lead or after they purchase the product, that counts as a sale. You know, that's pretty straightforward. That's one way to do it. Like, things are much, much more complicated, and your measurement has to go a bit deeper, especially if you're in e-commerce. If you're in e-commerce and you're dealing with very complicated shopping carts and users are coming to your website from multiple sources, and you have to deal with like attributing the right sales to the right source, you need to measure a bit better. You need to have everything unified. And another way to take care of it then, let's say you do have a more sophisticated need. Let's say you do recognize that you have that more sophisticated need. You could outsource, you know. There are developers out there that you could find them on Upwork or whatnot, or maybe you know somebody that can help you overcome these problems. You'll need somebody who's strong with JavaScript, who understands web technologies, and they could, you know, after spending some time going through the documentation, understand your requirements. I mean, look, if you're an internet marketer, your job is to drive the car, not to engineer it, not to build it, right? So if you outsource it, you're basically having somebody else, you know, take care of the tech. So that way, you, the internet marketer, you know, you're looking at your stats, you're looking at your campaigns, you're looking at your keyword performance, and you have the data you need. And then a third way, look, you could use an in-house developer. I mean, this actually is very suitable for larger companies. If you're a larger company and you have large development need and you have in-house developers, great. I mean, you're set. A challenge that I actually see sometimes, personally, is that sometimes developers don't respect the needs of marketers. They're not really understanding why, you know, people in marketing are asking them to do all this extra work. It is very important that they get the message because it is essential for the company to succeed. It is essential for, you know, the boss to be happy, to get the most out of every penny spent on advertising. And finally, so the next thing I want to say is that so these are all the different ways you could do it. But let's say you're in a situation like we are these days, like personally with most of the clients I'm driving traffic for, I'm using multiple advertising networks. So if I'm in a situation where I have traffic coming from, let's say, Bing, Google, Taboola, Outbrain, and Facebook to my website, and then it leads towards multiple CMSs or ordering systems, and then I'm using Google Analytics to analyze my data, I'm going to have a problem, you know? Like, it all needs to be unified and put together in one place. So in order to really succeed and be successful, you have to find a way to make all of this happen. So, you know, there are a few different routes you could take. You can try it yourself, and unless you're really familiar with web technologies, you might mess up, and that could actually be worse than not even doing it at all. You can outsource, which can, you know, be expensive, and also you're limited. If you have an in-house developer, then you're set. I mean, then just do it on your own, let's say. But you know what? Actually, there is something I'd like to introduce. And that's one reason why we're hosting this. Our sponsor here today is AnyTrack. AnyTrack is a solution that enables you to track sales across all these platforms and then unify them in one spot. And when I was, by the way, I shouldn't really say one spot. Google Analytics is the dash that I personally like using. It's beautiful. It allows me to break down and segment every which way. But also, we then needed to get pushed into Facebook and Google, right? I need my campaigns to optimize for the maximum return on ad spend. I need their super smart bidding algorithms to understand everything that's happening in order to make the most of it. So AnyTrack lets me do that, and that's something that, you know, we're really thrilled about. It's a brand new product, and it's a solution. If you guys are having trouble, that could be one way to go. So at this point, I think the 20 minutes is about up for the presentation. So, and I see quite a few questions coming in, and I'm sure also at this point everyone might be getting a little bit tired of my voice. I do talk a bit fast. I apologize. So I think now I'll let Jason take the wheel again, and let's see what people think. Let's see what they want to know.
Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Joel. What I heard there and what I saw coming through in the questions as well is, I mean, this is, and the questions from before, is that was all very PPC, bringing, from what I understand, the data, the conversion data into analytics to make sure that our PPC campaigns are profitable. What about the other channels? Pino, how do you feel about the other channels? Obviously, we need to measure PPC, and it's very easy to say we're spending this much. How much can we spend to get a new lead? What about the other channels? Any ideas of how to actually manage, before we start talking about the rest of it, how to measure the cost that we're putting out into other channels that we can then measure and use to get the value of the conversion?
I mean, of course, we have to look also into other channels. It's most of the time PPC channel that brings the most sales revenue and conversion, and people love to talk about PPC because it's so straightforward. But now with all the attributions and is it someone that came from mobile? Did it come from local search, or was it from organic first and then came from PPC as it's lastly conversion? So there's a lot of factors that you have to look into. So you really have to understand your data, and you have to understand the points, not only look at PPC. So it's very important to be in close touch with your clients to get their KPIs and then try to figure out how to measure it right. But there's always a challenge, because we as an agency, we try to not separate PPC and SEO. We want to look at the whole traffic. We also look at foot traffic, and everything has to be one solution, actually. So that's why it was very interesting to see this new tool coming up now, because most of the time for SEO performance, we use other tools, and for PPC, we mainly focus on Google Ads or Bing, and then use analytics for this. So, of course, every agency has a similar challenge to be looking at a lot of tools at the same time and trying to understand who is measuring what. Is it cookies, or is it looking at other things? So I think, yeah, there's still a lot of room for improvement in this area.
Which brings us on to Lauren, in fact, because that brings together a lot of different questions, one of which is cross-channel, the other is cross-device, bringing it all together so we're measuring with one single system. What are the advantages there that you guys bring? Because, I mean, reading your documentation, it would seem to be an awful lot. Lauren, you're muted. Sorry, Lauren.
Yeah. I'm on now. Like traditional tracking solutions, they, Google Analytics, is mostly, built around the Google, scope of advertising. Facebook Pixel is for like mostly Facebook advertising. So everyone is trying to, keep the data for itself. I'd rather, I use Facebook Pixel, to get my conversions into the Facebook ads, so I can optimize better my Facebook ads, and spend more on Facebook. So everyone is trying to keep the data for itself, or to funnel the data wherever it needs it the most. As a marketer, frankly, you don't really care whether the money is being generated in terms of sales. I mean, you want the sales, okay? So you're going to try Google, you're going to try Facebook, and sometimes some of the traffic will be better on Facebook, and then you're going to retarget it on Google Ads. So what happened, when you start mixing different sources of traffic, whether it can be also SEO for that matter, or native ads. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of native ads recently. What you want is a central, kind of a source of truth that will synchronize across all your analytics and ad networks the conversion data. So when a conversion comes through, whether it was initially generate, the click came from, Facebook, obviously the conversion will be attributed to the Facebook ad, okay, but the conversion will also be sent to the Facebook pixel and the Google Analytics pixel, and and Bing and the other ad networks, so you can actually build audiences across all those ad networks. So John Smith, once again, guilty, bought a product, and now that information can be relayed to all the ad networks. And now if I want to start retargeting people that bought some cars or some new cell phone or something, I can across all the ad networks simultaneously. And if someone buys again, I can exclude that audience from all those ad networks simultaneously. I can buy cheap traffic on native ads, let's say, because it's much cheaper than Google, and say, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to buy the cheap traffic there, okay, and all the engaged users, the guys that will actually click on my call to actions, or that will spend more than 10 seconds or 20 seconds on my site, or will browse across 2 or 3 pages of my site, I will then retarget them, somewhere else, okay, in Google Ads, because it's more expensive, it's more engaged users, and I can have a much better, messaging to those guys. So the idea of AnyTrack, or let's say what we're doing right now, okay, we call it AnyTrack, is years of experience and a lot of things that we've done, in the past, when you realize that every solution is trying to keep the conversion data or the data, within its premises. Okay, so you have dashboards where you can pull data from, a lot of places, and then you can centralize that. Okay, so there are solutions for that, endless solutions for that. And you have Google Analytics, Facebook, I mentioned that before. Now, what we're trying to give is the ability for the marketer to take his conversion data, which is its most precious asset, okay, because this is the actual juice of what is done, build messaging and campaigns and ads and and ad groups, and audiences and whatever. At the end, you have conversions. Okay, now you take that conversion data, okay, and you broadcast it across your ad networks and your analytics system.
So the great advantage.
Just one last bit is you turn your conversion data into a marketable asset.
which is a brilliant conclusion to what you've just said. And Sam, I mean, I'm sure from your experience with the people you've been working with, that problem of walled gardens and segmentation by these big platforms really frustrates us as marketers to actually get that data together and make the best use of it. What do you think of that as a problem that we've been facing that maybe there's a solution to today? Oh, Sam, you're muted.
I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, obviously, one of the challenges as an agency we face all the time is getting client accounts across 5, 6, 7, 8 platforms to talk to each other. We still use Google Analytics as a source of truth. We still use Data Studio potentially as a reporting source. But the amount of time that you have to spend as an agency to set everything up and test it is brutal. Like when you start to think about 5 sources, 10 sources for 20 clients, all of a sudden you're talking about a month of developer and internal resource time. So anything that expedites this process and makes it simple and straightforward and intuitive is a huge value add. And anything that can get data out of those platforms that we can't get is brilliant. Like we'll take all the data we can get. So yeah. I would say this is definitely kind of an improvement on 2 fronts. The first is just making this easy and straightforward. And the second is if there is incremental data that we can get over what's publicly available and get that into a central platform like a Google Analytics for analysis, that makes everything we do better.
I really like that point about centralizing everything. And I think that's key to this, is that we don't have that centralization. It makes life very complicated. But you're talking about big clients here. And Lauren, I'd like to ask you very quickly about smaller clients. I think there are quite a few questions about that. Smaller clients get very scared of tracking because they think I'm going to need a developer, and often do it badly because they don't really understand or they don't really get into it. How can you advise smaller businesses to start tracking and not be so scared?
Well, yeah, it can be. I'm not a developer myself. Okay, I cannot write a line of code. I can maybe read a bit of it, but in a very limited fashion. Tracking is complex. The topic, you need to understand. I mean, just before we had this woman asking or saying that tracking software was not working, and the tracking, the provider was telling them that's because most of the traffic that she has been, is flagged as ISP traffic. So just before I asked her on the chat, I said, like, what kind of software are you using? And she mentioned a software called Lead Feeder. I mean, for those that understand or knows what Lead Feeder is, if you have a Lead Feeder script on your website, okay, you will know who is actually visiting your website. So Joel is visiting, the website, and I will know that PPC Designs, was on my website, and I will get like some information about the actual users or employees of PPC Design. There are plenty of companies doing that. Okay, now that person came to the AnyTrack, webinar to talk about, advertising, traffic tracking. And here we go. She's asking about a system that has nothing to do with, advertising. Or it can to some extent, but very far from Google Analytics, very far from AnyTrack or from Facebook Pixel, etc., etc. So first of all, the concept is complex. People don't really understand what they need it, why they need it for, okay? And then on top of that, you have the complexity of the software. Now, companies like Google did not make it easy, sorry, because if you want to do a bit more than just seeing a stream of basic data on your dashboard, you're going to need to figure out how to play with JavaScript. So they've added Google Tag Manager, okay, which is a great tool. But here again, if you want to do, for instance, event tracking on your website, you want to track the buttons that you have on your website, okay, I looked, the best solutions out there, and I think there are, it's a 20 or something steps to set up. that require a bit of technical knowledge and understanding of what you do. And most of the time you fail. I did fail, okay, just so to make things straight. But still, it's a good evolution. Now, Google Tag Manager recently updated their system and provide now templates. Okay, so you can add some templates, and sometimes those templates will facilitate some of the actions that you want to take. So the problem with the small, let's say webmasters, affiliate marketers, small agencies that don't have much resources, they've been scared away, by the current systems, and they know, as far as they're concerned, tracking is complex and they don't want to touch it. So what we're trying to do here is bring, some simplicity, like a real plug and play, into that, arena, and make it very simple and accessible to everyone.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And making it accessible is amazing. I mean, Joel, you talk a lot about PPC. You talked about Google Ads. What, with all these different social platforms, with all their advertising possibilities, how do you keep all that data consistent and make sure that everything comes into analytics is consistent, so that and also segment them so that you're actually applying the right data to the right campaigns?
Right. Well, by the way, earlier on you're saying it was very PPC oriented. All traffic is PPC in one way or another. No, it is. Why? I mean, let's say if you put money into SEO, if you invest resources into online marketing, no matter what channel it is, you're paying for the clicks. Okay. So, so basically at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter if it's like through a social media paid platform or, or SEO, or you have affiliates and you're paying them for the traffic, or a media buy, or Google, or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, you're getting this stream of traffic into your site, which then goes through a journey that you define, your sales funnel. They might leave, they might come back, they might come back through other channels, might circle around and come in again from something else, right? At the end of the day, for me, in order to understand it the best way I can, I need, like, I rely on Google Analytics, but there's many other platforms out there, but I need a strong analytics program that I know that allows me to drill down and segment, get down to the, little drop about like how people come, how people interact, and how people move around. So to answer your question, it's like, for me, that's Google Analytics, and just having everything there is the most important thing, with the exception of also feeding the data into the paid advertising platforms, so that way they can do their job with whatever conversion optimizer algorithm they might have.
Okay, brilliant stuff. And you were talking about acquisition. I mean, Pinar, I'm sure you've got something to say about that. The fact that acquisition, in my experience in the past, of like 10 years ago, seemed so terribly simple, so terribly cheap, and it's becoming more and more expensive, more and more difficult. Making the most of the clients we manage to acquire, is that now your primary target?
Yeah, of course. I mean, first thing what we do is, before we get into all the multi-channels, multi-campaign analysis and all, we first have to make sure that really, I mean, we all rely on Google Analytics. I think, 90% or more are using Google Analytics for their business. So what I think is most important before is to clean check the traffic, if it's really tracking everything correctly, because we've seen so many Google Analytics accounts where there's so much going wrong, and then people misinterpret. There's things are being counted twice, or the cost data is not set up correctly, the e-commerce tracking, there's so many mistakes. So before you really can start talking about multi-channel, multi-campaign and analysis, you first have to see if everything is measuring correctly, and that, to convince the client to that step, is, I think, the most challenging part, because nobody wants to first accept that there are some mistakes in this, because if you come in as an agency, you don't want to say at first, oh, everything you did before is not measuring right. I mean, sometimes truth hurts, but you have to start, I think, first with understanding the data, and then you see what is the multi-channel? What's the priority? Which business is it? Only an online business? Do they have stores? Is it a local business? And things like this. Maybe Sam also wants to add something. So it's also his area of specialty.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam, please.
No, I would say that I think even for a small company, data is a force multiplier, right? If you put good data in, that makes your results potentially linearly or exponentially better. If you put bad data in, the reverse is true. Bad data doesn't make your campaign stay in neutral. Bad campaigns throws them in reverse. You spend money on things you shouldn't be spending money on. It's a vicious downward spiral. So it is essential to have the right data going into your platforms, the correct data. And anything that makes that process easier, especially for smaller clients, is essential. But even our small clients, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on Google, they're likely on YouTube, they're probably doing something on an affiliate, and they might be on LinkedIn for recruiting. That's 5 or 6 channels, not to mention organic, not to mention email, not to mention anything else. You're at 7 or 8 channels, and that's essential. So standardizing that data and making sure that it does adhere to the right conventions it's not optional anymore. Before we could just like, oh, it's Facebook, it's fine. No, now you need to know Facebook's got marketplace, they've got stories, they've got in-stream, and you can select all of these. So which one works? Having those right conventions in place is essential, and something that allows you to do it as a small business owner is tremendous, because odds are your competition's not doing it. So if you get a data advantage, your campaigns get better, theirs go in reverse, you win more business. Yay, go you.
Yeah, I love that idea of data advantage over your competition. I think we often forget that our competition isn't doing this kind of thing, that if we do, we immediately get an advantage. And that leads me to another question, which is about Google Analytics default setup. Sam, I think you had something to say about that. I mean, I tend to just install Google Analytics and say, okay, they probably got it about right. Is that the best way to do it? Or specifically, somebody asked about social media traffic. Is the default setup for Google Analytics any good for that?
It is not. I mean, the default, Google doesn't care about Facebook. Like, Google's the company that like plastered Facebook must die on their wall and tried to build a rival social network. And Facebook did the same thing to Google. They're not going to be helpful to each other. So Google is going to take every bit of Facebook traffic you have and either chuck it into Facebook, or they're going to chuck it into referral, or they're going to chuck it into direct none. Which one goes where? I don't know. Depends on who feels how someday. So it needs quite a bit of help. Like, you have to, as a marketer, you have to be setting up tracking templates. You have to standardize. And a lot of our clients never have standard, even UTM conventions that allow you to say, okay, this traffic came from this source and this medium, this campaign, this content, this term. Okay, then I can evaluate apples to apples, what worked, what didn't. But if you just let Google go to its own thing, all of your Facebook traffic is going to go scattered to the winds. Like, we have a client right now that has 500,000 or so sessions that are just where they are. They might be in direct none, they might be in social, I don't know. But
so what do you do? Do you tag all the incoming traffic, or do you rework the filters that Google Analytics gives you?
So for a straight setup, we retag everything. Every social post has a standard, everything has a convention, right? You just, it sounds like a lot of work until you do it. And then it's like, okay, it's easy, right? But that only goes you so far. The second piece, and I think where something like AnyTrack is super helpful, is once that comes into the website, what are they doing? Which traffic is actually valuable? I don't care about just who sent me traffic. I care about good traffic. I care about traffic that does stuff, and making sure that every platform knows what platform did stuff, so that I can feed it all back in, or take somebody through a journey. If they go to a page, great. That's a micro conversion. Great. Feed them into the next remarketing audience. Now tell Facebook to do that too.
Yeah.
I think the story I always tell is AT&T, right? I was a customer on the AT&T network, logged into my account. I open up my AT&T smartphone, and I get an ad for switch to AT&T and save $400. That's just bad marketing, and it's done because bad tracking. Like, you didn't know. Also, I'm not an AT&T customer anymore. AT&T sucks. Sorry, AT&T. But things like that, that's how you infuriate your customers. So you have to have good tracking, not just to know how much your money you're spent, but to make sure your customers have good experiences.
Yeah. No, I 100%. That AT&T example really speaks to me, not particularly for AT&T. I've had the same experience with a French company, and it is infuriating. As a marketer, we need to know where our audience is in the conversion funnel, or even if they've already converted, to make sure we're giving them an appropriate message. Moving on, Lauren, you wanted to talk a little bit about CRM offline tracking. We've had several questions about foot traffic How on earth do you do that?
Yeah. Okay. So there are a few things about CRM traffic, conversion or offline conversions. We got quite a few people asked about those type of conversion. How do you feed them into Google Analytics? Essentially, what happens when you have an offline conversion, which means someone sign up on your website. From an ad or from SEO, from other sources of traffic, and he will get a phone call from a salesperson, and after maybe a few calls, that the client will purchase. Now the purchasing happens offline. I mean, over the phone. The guy didn't, was not online on the computer, so there is no thank you page. There is no pixel that fires on the thank you page. Okay, it happens really, with the salesperson. Now, before you can actually track something, you need, in the CRM, you actually need to collect the right data and push the right data into the form and into the CRM. Now, you have plenty of tools to do that. Normal form providers like Gravity Form or whatnot can capture this type of information, and then you have to push it into the CRM. Now, how to get the CRM to push the information back to Google Analytics and or to Google Ads? So if you're lucky and you're spending a lot of money on Salesforce, that means that you have a direct integration with Google Ads. Okay, so you connect your CRM with Google Ads and the conversion data is moving from one place to another. Very easy. If you have another CRM, then that's another story. This is like the only CRM, actually. Salesforce is the only CRM connected to Google Ads. So if you have another CRM, then you need to export the data and upload the data into your Google Ads account or Google Analytics account, and that's called offline conversion upload, and that's a daily manual process. I know that recently they've added some new synchronization with Google Sheet, but yeah, it's a bit archaic and it's a bit clunky if you ask me, but it's feasible. And that's one of the things that we've tried to solve, is the ability to bring the data wherever it is. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's just a thank you page, or it's an affiliate program, or it's a cart from e-commerce system, or a payment system, or from a CRM, or from an API. And we ourselves use tools, to bring this data when we need it. Tools like Zapier or Integromat. I don't know if anyone know those tools. Those are very easy to use, and implement tools to bring data from all sorts of CRM and then push it into other systems like AnyTrack or like Google Sheet or like any other other systems. But that's really the link. What we're trying to do is be a bridge or a link between the different systems that you have, because we spoke yesterday with about mobile apps. We don't solve the problem of mobile tracking or event tracking, in-app event tracking. There are billion-dollar companies doing that, called Tune, Has Offers, AppsFlyer, Adjust. Okay, the problem is, how do you bring the data out of those systems into Google Analytics or into your own analytics system, Facebook, etc., etc.? You need to have a system, because there is not probably not like always a native integration between those systems and your other networks. And this is where we can be a bridge also. Okay, so we really try to focus on how to bring the conversion data closer to the user and closer to where the user needs it the most. So I can have it into my Google Sheet or into my own reporting system, and I can use it and forward it wherever I need it with the right format,
Okay.
according to those networks.
And user in this context being me as a marketer, so that I have the information I need in order to be able to act properly in my marketing efforts. Sam, very quickly last couple of questions are going to be cross-device and cross-channel. Okay. Sam, advice about cross-channel tracking and marketing, and understanding that it's incredibly complex today. I mean, I tended as an SEO to say, we've got SEO traffic, we're selling, that's fine, I can stop thinking there, but we can't do that anymore, can we?
No, definitely not. I mean, most users have, I think the last study I saw was anywhere from 10 to 900 touch points between the time they identify a need and the time they purchase something, with like 10 being me buying a toothbrush and 900 being me planning my next vacation, right? But understanding where somebody is in that process, they're not going to identify themselves until that's likely majority over. So how do we understand what channel they are? What's the intent of that channel? What are they trying to do? What content did they interact with? As much data as you can get, again, it's a force multiplier. So the better data you have on what channel they're on, what content they're engaging with, the more everything else you can do can line up with that, the better experience you can provide, and ultimately the more of that traffic you can convert. I know we saw some live comments here about talking about LinkedIn, for instance, and LinkedIn has phenomenal first-party data. So a lot of times we'll pay the premium for the first-party data, tag it appropriately, track it appropriately, and then remarket on the cheap channels to that traffic. Why? Because I know I'm getting first-party good data. Like the first thing you do is you update your LinkedIn profile when you get a promotion or a new job or anything else. So if I have a B2B company, hello, that's a gold mine. So if I can get that data, I can pay the premium and then remarket on the cheap channels, let somebody else go fight for the 4 clicks they need to convert, but I can get somewhere else. But that's only possible if you have good data, which is why I think we come back to anything that you can do to get better data makes your life better. And anything you can do to streamline that process also makes your life better.
But then comes the challenge of knowing what to count, which I think is really important.
Yeah. I heard 2 different ideas though during this webinar. One of which was reach out with cheap traffic, get a big audience, and then funnel down to find the really interesting people. And then this idea, which is reach out to very specific traffic that you know is going to be valuable, and then remarket to them on the cheaper channels. I love both of those ideas, and they would, I imagine, be both very effective.
But Jason, if I may,
yep.
We are, all of us here, okay, all of this traffic. I mean, the intent of a user, okay, at 2 o'clock in the morning, okay, browsing the news, he has a certain intent, okay. At 12 o'clock, lunchtime, he has another intent. The value of that intent is what makes the cost per click higher in gambling, for instance, on Saturday night or Friday night, rather than on Thursday night. We are the cheap traffic at some point of the day, and we are the most expensive traffic at some point of the day. It's just, who's targeting who, and who's got the data to actually play with your mind or your, addictions and get you to take out your credit card.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Sorry, and that's a really nice, important idea. Is the type of consumer we are and the type of action we take changes over time, depending on time of the day or place in the acquisition funnel, which is phenomenally important. I think we often forget. One thing I was interested in, and Joel, maybe you can help with that, is cross-device. I mean, I used to be. I've been in the web so long that I remember when it was just desktop, mobile. How do you manage to link those 2 together?
Well, that's that's very, very challenging. I think, look, there's different, like Facebook tracking actually does it very, very well, but that just keeps it mostly inside of Facebook. Google Analytics, though, is able to overcome it a bit, and they're able to do estimations to help you understand what's happening with cross-device. Actually, though, I think that's, but again, I think let's talk about what our strengths and weaknesses are. My strength is in driving the car, is in looking at the data and making the most of it, understanding its limitations, and running, my budgets the best way I can. While Laurent over here, his strength is in making the car run really, really well, giving me, the driver, the feedback I need to race it on the track as fast as possible. Laurent, what do you say about cross-device? How did you handle that?
sorry, the mute. We don't replace Google Analytics again, neither Facebook Pixel. I mean, they have a deeper, everything print within the devices and browsers of the users, and they are the one, they are the source of truth for the device tracking, cross-device tracking. So we don't replace that. However, because we use the native data provided by the Google and Facebook pixels and cookies and all of this, okay, we cook with them, okay, so we use them, and what happened is that when we get a conversion from a network or a CRM or an affiliate network or whatever source of conversion. We tie it to whatever cookie it was initially it came through with. So if it was the client ID of a mobile device or a standard desktop device, then we just fire it to Google or Facebook, and they will know, and they will make that attribution themselves. They will say, okay, well cookie ID number 123 got that conversion, bam, okay, and then that's their problem. That's no longer our problem, okay. I mean, it's not that it's not a problem. It's no longer our purpose. Every system has a purpose. This is not our purpose to allow cross-device tracking. They do it better than probably anyone else.
Okay. So I mean, cross-device traffic remains a problem for us all. And isn't a problem, as far as I can see, that anyone's going to solve anytime soon. Cross-channel traffic is much more within our reach today, and you guys, AnyTrack, really help with that.
Well, yes, that because we fire the conversion across the different channels. When it comes from email marketing, then we send it with the proper UTM parameters. To Google with so they can attribute it, and based on if initially the conversion came from Google Ads, then we're gonna also fire the click ID from Google Ads so they can attribute that on their end. So the user, when he sees a conversion, he can see it under different call it different loops. So, okay, now I can see that conversion came from email. But initially, that conversion, it was also generated by my Google Ads campaign.
So I mean, it's really centralizing everything.
If I'm doing, I mean, if you do lead generation, okay, so you get like traffic from Google Ads, okay, people register on your landing page, they drop an email, and then we track that, okay. So we fire the lead back to Google Ads. There was a conversion on Google Ads. Now, that lead, was sent to MailChimp or to whatever email marketing system. And the marketer will then market the product for which he actually captured the lead. So it might be an affiliate product, it can be an e-commerce product. So how do you actually get that information when the lead actually buys something? How do you get that information back into the email marketing system so you can trigger new sequences of email and lead campaigns, and also tell Google that, oh, that was a conversion. There was a guy that actually came as a lead initially, and now he bought like $1,000 worth of wine, okay? And now you get like your conversion data back into Google Ads, and you can say, wow, okay, that's a good segment of data, and I can build, more campaign, get more traffic of it, or I can optimize, or I can let Google Ads optimize for that.
Perfect, brilliant stuff. So I've really enjoyed this. We've had our hour. That was a really nice conclusion as to kind of exactly what it is you guys do. Joel, your talk was brilliant at the beginning, making sure that we all make the most of our clicks. Thank you very much, Joel. That was amazing. Pinar, thank you as well. Thank you, Sam. Great insights from you two, the great, wonderful guests we've had. And Lauren, thank you very much for explaining all that to us.
That was terrific. And of course, by the way, if you guys want to find us, Actually, you know what? If you want to continue the dialogue, because I think some people might still have questions, if anything comes up, just Twitter, #AnyTrack.
Yeah.
We'll be watching for that.
Yeah, we're gonna keep getting questions, I guess. And but guys, it was like a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. And Jason, it was great to see you again. And
yeah, wonderful.
For the great entertainment. Thanks a lot, so much. Huh?
Entertainment being forgetting the name of the company, but I was joking, Laurent. I was joking. I promise you. Thanks a lot, everybody. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you to the audience for watching and listening.
Thank you, everyone.
Sam, Pinar, Joel, Laurent, brilliant stuff.
Have a nice one. Bye bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Bye.